last season I loved. I loved last season of the New Unfiltered because I finally feel like I can really be myself. And through you guys meeting my mom and just hearing all these crazy things that happened to me, I'm excited about this season because I'm getting back into what I really am strong at doing, which is interviewing. But like I said, through the past season and even towards the end of This Is Life Unfiltered, I had interviewed founders for 4 years, and between both of the shows, the Disney show and that podcast, I got to a point where I was like, I want to now start talking about topics that feel more relative and relatable to people who aren't entrepreneurs. I have a very strong following of people who want to start companies and have started companies, and I love that, and I love continuing to talk to people about that. But there's so much other stuff that goes on in my life that I think is really relative to young people specifically. A lot of ups and downs, trial and error, personal friendships, relationships. And so that's why I hope through this new season and me doing this as a seasonal show, predominantly so that I have the time in between to work on the summit program and building up other parts of my company. Having a full-time podcast is mentally exhausting, and I just feel like this really works for me right now. But in this season, you're going to see me interviewing different entrepreneurs, different people in the community, and just making this hopefully a more down-to-earth and relatable podcast for those who are not only interested in business, but also just interested in what goes on in my life and everything around it. So in last season, I think the last episode, one of the last ones, I was just starting to kind of transition to Austin. You met my mom. Since then, I have made it to Austin. I signed the lease. I am living on the east side, right in downtown Austin. I love it. I've had so many people reach out to me and ask me, what do I think about it? Do I like it? Is there anything I would change? There's definitely, I'm going to get into it, and this episode won't have a guest. I won't be taking a voicemail for this episode just because I thought for episode 1, before getting back into the interviewing, I should just talk about what's been going on. So I've been here, like I said, about 4 weeks. I am still keeping my apartment in LA, February, and while I was in Turkey, Austin had that crazy snowstorm that was insane, and when I got back, I just kind of freaked out. I don't usually have those moments anymore where I just seriously question myself and what I'm doing, but I certainly think that it was one of those moments when I got back and that happened. I hadn't confirmed a Vanderbilt summit, but when I got back after that snowstorm happening, I just really kind of was like, what am I doing? I don't know a lot of people in Austin. I've now lived in Connecticut, Boston, New York, LA, and I think a part of me was just like, what the fuck am I doing? Moving to another city? Is there something wrong with me that I keep moving? Like, why have I been in LA for 4 years and now I want to leave again? And so after just really honestly talking to my therapist and sitting down with myself and having these morning discussions with myself and really writing down the positives and negatives to going to Austin, I realized that this was the right decision. I'm not going to lie, I was incredibly overwhelmed. Like when I first got to Austin, I felt almost sick to my stomach because I was still having a lot of those feelings there. I have my core group of friends in LA, my 3 really good girlfriends who live there. Everyone else, honestly, I kind of know in LA has since left. So that was one of the main reasons I was deciding to leave LA. When I also got back from Turkey, things started opening up more. It was like, oh my gosh, if I move to Austin and then all of a sudden the entertainment industry opens it back up and I'm able to go to these events, and like the main reason that I moved to LA and meet people, I'm gonna freak out and it's gonna suck. Luckily that didn't happen. I personally don't think that is going to happen, honestly, for the foreseeable future in LA. It's really disappointing, but LA is just no longer the place that I see as this place filled with palm trees and excitement and that sex appeal when I moved there, because it's all locked down, and honestly, the homeless in LA has gotten so bad to where it's just completely out of control. I mean, it's bizarre that I live literally next to G-Eazy on this insane, beautiful street, and to my right, there's people in hundreds and hundreds of tents. I mean, I am seriously empathetic for that. But that being said, it makes you question to like, why am I paying this much money when I could get a house in Texas and have some sense of like security and clean air and not such shitty people around me? So I am, again, very glad and confident with the decision to be in Austin. I have made so many new friends here in 4 weeks of being here, which is crazy to me. I was telling one of my friends who was in town last weekend, she came from LA and certainly was like, I'm going to try and date and meet people. She downloaded Hinge, set up all these dates for herself, And at the end of her weekend here, she looked at me and was like, dude, you were totally right. No one's ever going to meet anyone in LA. So she even now, I think, is thinking about coming here like every few weekends and stuff, just to kind of see the vibe and meet people. The cool thing about Austin is, from what I've seen being here, even the co-working spaces being open, restaurants being open, this is a city that enforces and wants you to meet people and be young and have fun and really find yourself. Me living in LA and being an entrepreneur, being my age, I was so work focused for so many years, and I didn't ever enjoy going out there because I didn't like the people I would meet when I would go out. I felt like I was constantly forcing myself to go out, and that being said, here I actually enjoy it. I enjoy meeting people who are entrepreneurs or successful, but also have that same sense of like they want to have a moderately normal life, like they just want to go to the gym or drive a Honda, even if they can afford a Tesla. And I just really resonate with that kind of mindset. And so I would highly suggest anyone who's interested in moving to a new city, getting out of a small town. I think Austin really could be the place for you. I think everyone is literally moving to Miami or Texas, and it's kind of up to you which one do you want to go to. So I just don't think LA has that sex appeal. I mean, the weather is certainly different. I don't love the weather in Austin. I'm getting serious anxiety by what people are telling me about the weather in the summer. As someone who walks outside and burns in a literal heartbeat, I'm a little bit scared about it. But again, this is all like a trial and error kind of thing for me. My ideal plan would be that come September, LA isn't opened up. There really is no reason to be there. I would get a real full 2-bedroom apartment in Texas. I can get that in Austin for what I'm paying in LA for a 1-bedroom, if not even less. And then probably coerce one of my friends to drive a U-Haul with me, all my furniture. That apartment was amazing. I got so many messages from so many of you that were like, I can't believe you just decorated this place and now you're leaving. And I was like, yeah, but at the end of the day, it's materialistic. I can bring that stuff with me. I can sell it and redecorate a new place. It's kind of like that. And I've really had to convince myself and realize the mindset of that. Being comfortable is phenomenal, but sometimes you just have to constantly be uncomfortable to become more successful. So that's my ideal plan. But again, if I wanted to go back to LA, I can go back to LA. I'm still kind of going there here and on and off if there's like some reason for me to be there. I am enjoying getting out of my comfort zone and making new friends in Austin and really enjoying the culture and just feeling like a little bit more normal. Like I can be 23 here and young and still meet people, but also be a successful businesswoman and have phone calls and work throughout the day versus sitting in my apartment alone in LA 24/7. This is all material stuff. What matters is that your day-to-day life and your ultimate happiness is driven by what you're doing. It doesn't matter how much money you're making or where you're doing it or where you're living from. It matters is what you're doing driving you to be better and work harder and live a more fearless and unfiltered life. So that's the apartment side of things and the travel side of things. I want to talk about what's coming up in the summit. So when I got back from Turkey, I was really frustrated. Honestly, there are times for me where things are just not going what I want, like how I want them to go. And so when I got back, I felt really lost with this decision of, am I chasing something in Austin? Like, am I trying to go there and think that things are going to open back up for me? Or like I'm going to get a new opportunity and it's not going to happen and then I'm going to be really frustrated. Luckily, I took that leap, and the week before I even moved out of that apartment, took a flight to Austin, I got confirmation from Vanderbilt, which was so cool. It was so random too, because one of the girls who attended the summit I hosted in Nashville in September with her campus community, she came and she was at Vanderbilt, and I just had never even thought about reaching out to her. I was kind of like, why am I gonna, it just didn't even run through my mind. That being said, Vanderbilt is such a big university, so I was like, this is Ivy. If I haven't been at a Harvard or a Yale yet, Vanderbilt is way too high up. But I randomly just DM'd her one day on Instagram and was like, hey, out of curiosity, is this something that you'd be down to do? And she was like, let's set up a call. Within 24 hours, they were like, let's do this. And I was like, oh my God, here we go again. I had sent a proposal to them earlier this year and had been waiting for some months to hear back. Now, I haven't ever been paid to bring a summit to a college campus. When I started this project, this was literally, I looked at this as a project. I did not look at this Be Fearless Summit as a company. I never did the steps to really establish it as a company. It's still under my personal LLC, which is a Life in the Fashion Lane. And so when I was approached by them about potentially they wanted to buy into this as a young entrepreneur who never has necessarily created a proposal in this capacity that was more so geared less about me and my personal brand and more about this particular summit and a whole day conference, I took some time to create this proposal. I sent it over to them, and simultaneously when Vanderbilt said yes, I got approval from UConn about the summit coming to them in the fall. So we are at the initial phases right now of signing that contract and viewing the space and seeing how this goes. This, like I said, is in a whole new ball game for me of unexpected success from this, because I always kind of envisioned my goal would be to get paid for these like I am for talks when I'll do at a university, but never this amount of money, never this amount of work and this amount of planning. So it's really cool. I think this is the most incredible part, is the more you're able to get out of your comfort zone. Who knows, maybe if I didn't come to Austin and have some success and feel a little bit happier, that I would have landed both of these within a few weeks. I don't know. But when I look back, I think a huge reason for me feeling a lot happier and more comfortable with myself is that I took that plunge and I got out of my comfort zone by coming here in ways that I haven't in so long. Writing a proposal and working with a different brand is totally different than moving somewhere different and kind of restarting your life without anyone that you know. So I love that. The more you get out of your comfort zone, I am living proof of that. The more you get out of your comfort zone, the more fearless you'll be and the more you'll accomplish. So that's what's happening with the summit. And I'm just excited to be back actually meeting young people in person. This is really why I started this summit program. So COVID obviously kind of screwed that up and screwed it up for so many people. But for me to be able to be back on a college campus and actually be bringing speakers in, I know up front it's going to be way harder to get people to come to Mansfield, Connecticut. So I've already started thinking through in my head is like, how am I going to get top speakers that I know to go from where? Like Boston and then drive 2 hours, or New York and then fly into Hartford. I don't know, but I guess we'll figure it out closer to. Is I was so unhappy for so long. I hated pretty much everything in my life, and I genuinely think a lot of that hatred towards everything, stuff, no one besides the people around me, my sister, my parents, Gabe, my boyfriend, well now ex-boyfriend, but my ex-boyfriend would have seen this stuff. But I think a lot of it stems from the trauma that I dealt with as a kid. I never worked on. And I really grew up on my own. I mean, I love my parents, I love my mom, but number one, and if you watch that episode with my mom, British people are not the kind of people who sit down and have these in-depth, deep conversations. I would look at, I remember Gabe talking to his mom and just friends of mine, the relationships they would have with my mom, with their mom. I never had that relationship because I just don't think my mom and I really ever worked to build it. And I think from about 16, 17, when I started taking on so much responsibility and feeling so passionate and driven about success, equally not being able to understand and accept being unsuccessful, I started to kind of dive myself into this hole of not wanting to be around people. I would get so angry, I would lash out. I had serious, severe anger issues, and unfortunately no one helped me. And I think that the relationship that Gabe and I had, he knew me to my core, and he saw so much of this stuff, but he also would put up with all of my kind of manic episodes. But he's not my mom, he's not my dad, so it's not like he was able to be like, you need to go to treatment. And so it was really over the past year, I would say probably December of 2019, where I just started realizing that the therapist that I had, I didn't think was really doing anything for me. It might be worth me trying a new therapist. I downloaded BetterHelp, got matched with a therapist in Connecticut, and initially when I started seeing her, I was so angry. I mean, I'd never been so angry. At the time, I still wasn't talking to Gabe, and I was so mad at what had happened with Gabe. I was so angry at my sister, still so angry at everything, but also so able to perform in such a high capacity with work, present these amazing speeches and have this successful show on Disney. And honestly, I would show up to Disney and I would have this great smile on my face, and behind the scenes, I was just truly struggling. And once I was matched with this new therapist, I kind of had told her everything that had happened to me when I was a child, as well as the relationship that I had with my sister and what had happened with Gabe and how I felt very abandoned almost by everyone. And over the course of the past year, I think I started working with her in about April of last year. We have become so close, and I attribute so much of my genuine happiness now to this therapist. And that's why when I have friends who are like, I went to a therapist once and I didn't like it and now I'm not going again, and I'm like, look, take my advice. You have to try multiple different therapists, and there are going to be times where you don't like the therapist, but when you find the right therapist, and most importantly, 90% of it is you're willing to get help. My gut was telling me that I needed help, that I didn't need to be so unhappy. And it was even worse that I was able to like have so many people telling me you're so successful and it's so great that you're so young and you're doing this. Because behind the scenes I was like, I fucking hate everything and I'm so angry. Oh my God, you guys, like I would have, and I'm saying this so honestly and vocally is because I want people to know that number one, what you see on social media, and I always talk about this, is not what is behind the scenes happening. And number two, that if you've dealt with something like I have, severe trauma as a kid, it's just going to bite you in the ass. So you might as well deal with it. I matched with this new therapist and took this control of deciding that the happiness I thought I was having was solely based in my work happiness, and that when these cameras would turn off, I hated everything, and that wasn't normal. So I remember my first meeting with her, I sat down and I remember her asking me questions, and I was so defensive, and I was like, it's really rude you're asking me that. I'm really uncomfortable, you know. Did this make you happy? Or like, I don't like you. I don't like you. And every week I would go back to her, and slowly she kind of started to like peel away these pieces of this shell that I had created around myself of being unable to accept that I was so unhappy because I thought in my work life I was doing so well and I was happy. And so we have really worked to get me to a point to where now I feel free. I feel free of like anger. I feel free of resentment. When things arise and things don't go as planned, I do not lash out on anyone now. I don't lash out on myself. If I get an email that kind of frustrates me or something doesn't happen, I analyze the situation and I just think to myself, don't go back to where you used to be at. Don't do that. Don't do that. And so now I just have so much faith in my ability to kind of continue to like be a strong person and hopefully continue to inspire you, but really work on that issue, because that was severe anger issues I had for so many years. And I know I have a lot of parents who also listen to this podcast. So if your child is performing highly like I was, yet there is stuff going on behind the scenes, you need to help them. Like sometimes it's so much easier to brush it under the rug, right? And especially for me, because I was so angry when I have these moments of like severe rage attacks where I would physically like hit people, yet I was able to go and succeed in that way in business. That doesn't mean that it's okay. That doesn't mean that it's the kind of thing that like, oh, Alexa freaked out again, but like it's fine. She just made this amount of money. Like she's good. It was a cry for help, and I'm telling you, don't do the cry for help. If no one's helping you, you have to help yourself. Please, please, please do not back yourself into the corner like I did for years. So there's just a lot of things here that I'm hoping throughout this episode I'm kind of going to be able to tell you what I've experienced over the past 4 years, and hopefully you will walk away with some of it. So that UConn Summit is happening, Vanderbilt is happening, which I'm really hyped about. I have some really awesome guests and topics coming up in this season. I have a finance expert coming on. I've got someone to talk about the COVID vaccine, which I have gotten. Took me a long time to decide to get it, as weird as that sounds. I know people probably want to know that I was like on board immediately to getting it. I wasn't, and I still am like really iffy about it. I just finally decided it was the right thing to do. So I've got someone to come on and talk about that. I'm probably still going to keep this at a 10 episode cap and see how things go, just so that I don't feel overwhelmed like having to put out content of this podcast every week after each season. Ideally, I would like to get back to the point where I go into doing this every week, and maybe it will happen, but for the time being, I like the idea of just doing 10 episodes. They're all slated to go out. I can do my stuff in between, focus on the summit, like I said, hopefully land another show, and then I can go back to doing this for season 3 or whatnot. But I love hearing from you. I am so excited to continue to meet so many of you at these upcoming summits. So I'm really excited about that. I think Austin is the place for me. Like I said at the beginning of this episode, I feel a genuine sense of normalness here that I didn't feel for so long in LA. Maybe it's because I am from Mansfield, Connecticut, and as much as I live this like high-class luxury lifestyle, at the end of the day you can take it all away, and as long as I'm like inspiring people and traveling and wearing sweatpants, I'm good to go. And I just became so overwhelmed in LA and felt so out of my own comfort zone in a way that I didn't like, whereas here it's out of my own comfort zone to where I'm like, I have to meet new people and I want to make some new friends, but I also am not like feeling every day I have to go out and have makeup on and this beautiful outfit and feel so glam and judged if I'm not. And that's a huge cultural thing in LA. And maybe post-COVID, some of those things will disappear. But for the meantime, I'm very excited to be here. I look forward to continuing to meet and have so many of you guys come on to this new summit program and be at many of the upcoming summits. We've been doing these weekly Clubhouse discussions with guests on mentorship to really keep this conversation going. So definitely join in on those, usually Monday or Tuesday nights about 5 or 6 p.m. PST? No, 5 or 6 p.m. Yes, PST. Like 8 or 9 EST. And yeah, so if you forgot the phone number, you can also see it on the Unfiltered Instagram, but it is 909-979-3291. Send me your voicemails, call me, text me. I can't wait to talk with you, and I will see you next week for the first official guest episode from one of your voice calls of the new Unfiltered. Bye, guys!